Today's guest grew up right here at the Gstaad Palace Hotel, one of the last five-star family-owned and run properties in Switzerland. Today, he is owner, managing director, and today's newsmaker, Andrea Scherz. Hotel, airport, tourism, polo, family. You are a man of many hats, Andrea.
Yes.
So, shall we call you Mr. Gstaad?
No. I'm very modest. I like Andrea.
All right, so let's start then with what I assume takes up most of your time, which is a hotel. Is this a fair assumption?
That's a fair assumption, yeah. It should be, because it's our family business, and it takes most of my time. But as I said, as you said, many other occupations left and right, but often in the interest of the hotel.
So the hotel is repeatedly described as one of the last luxury, family-owned and run hotels in Switzerland, which is kind of a funny comment to me, because I feel like, okay, on the one hand, it seems like something to be very proud of, that you are, one of the last men standing.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it sounds like, is it a dying breed?
A dying species, yeah.
Is it?
It looks like it, yes, unfortunately. And as you said, I'm very proud of this. I'm very proud what my predecessors did. My grandfather who started here, then my father and my mother. And now I'm into about 23 years also running this hotel. So we're proud, the Scherz family is proud to be one of the last families to own and manage a five-star property in Switzerland. And yeah, it's a bit sad, it's a dying species. It's getting more and more difficult to run a hotel with your own funds, just by making the money yourself and reinvesting. All the similar hotels are bought by big companies, wealthy people who just can spend whatever they want on their property.
How many times have they come knocking on your door?
Oh, I stopped counting. It's very flattering as well. In an average, we get, I would say, a serious offer every 2-3 years. We get a serious offer. And we get about 2 or 3 phone calls a year just inquiring whether it's for sale, and as soon as we say no, the conversation stops there.
So you haven't been tempted?
No. What would I do?
I don't know. I mean,
don't
they
know
come
either.
with millions and millions of francs. I don't know.
Yeah, well, actually, when it's a family business for over 3 generations, it really grows on you. I mean, I grew up here. I've seen my grandparents, my parents working here. It really grows on you, and I'm in a very happy position. I get up 99% of the year, every morning, happy to go to work. I'm excited to go to work. Sometimes I wake up a bit dizzy, and then I start to think what my day is going to be, and it gets me excited and it gets me out of bed. And who is in this lucky position?
Not a lot of people.
Exactly. So I'm very happy to do my job.
And actually, so because I've cleared this up for me, because I've read different things, that you are an owner, that you are a co-owner. Which is it? Are you?
It's today our family owns 70%, and I own the majority of the 70%.
Okay.
So I'm a co-owner, but I have the majority of the shares.
And who co-owns it with you?
With me, the daughters of my brother, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
Okay, but it still is within the family.
Within
it's
the family.
It's 100% owned by the Scherz family.
70%. It's owned
70% shared.
70%.
But the other 30%?
Other 30% belongs to the family Dassault. Dassault Industries. You see Mr. Dassault up there with the Nikon camera. They own 30%, because the sisters and the brother of my father, they sold their 10% shares after a while, and we found the family Dassault, who have been coming here for 4 generations and are great investors. They have that hotel nearly as much at heart as we do, so they're great partners in this.
And still families. Still family owned.
Yes, it's still family owned. Yeah, it's still a family as well. Yeah, they have the same, they're sort of the same breed as we are, with the family tradition, history.
So, and it's no secret that hotels like this require extensive renovations and maintenance, right? So as you've said before, a never-ending story.
It is.
I mean, how do you manage to the upkeep so that the renovations don't become so expensive that they're not affordable?
Well, it's quite simple. We keep on doing it regularly, twice a year when the hotel shuts. You know, we're only open 3 months in summer and 3 months in winter.
Yeah.
And in between season, as we call it, we regularly do maintenance and renovations.
How much do you reinvest in the hotel, like, per year?
About 4 million every year.
Okay, all right, that's a
Yeah.
significant bit of.
It's a significant bit of money, but it's also a grand old lady. But we're lucky, the structure is very well. They built the hotel 1913. They built it in a very strong manner, very good way. Sometimes architects come and look and study how they did it in the past because they can't understand how it was built so well and so strong.
Yeah.
So we're lucky that the substance is in a great shape.
And what percentage is that of your turnover?
Of our turnover, it's about 15%.
And this is a standard for this kind of hotel?
It's exceptionally high.
Okay.
But we found it's the only way that we can maintain this hotel, and that's probably one of the secrets why we're still here. We kept investing always a lot in the hotel to keep up also with the competition and to have a great hardware. Our guests come from all over the world. They come from all over the world, and they're used to great hotels. My guests themselves, they have amazing properties, amazing houses. So we need to offer them high quality of hotel.
Earlier we were talking about how people have come knocking on your door, wanting to acquire it. I mean, increasingly you're hearing stories of hoteliers in Switzerland who can't afford to stay competitive. So they are selling to foreign investors, attracted by Switzerland, obviously. I've got Americans, Chinese. This one comes to mind in Lucerne, Yung Feng Gao, who bought up the Palace Hotel in Lucerne. How does that strike you, how this is happening?
Well, you know, many of my colleagues, probably they don't have a choice. They just run out of what I call air. You know, the revenue is stagnant or declining, the costs are increasing, and all of a sudden the bottom line is getting too thin to survive. So then often it's hard if you don't have an investor, if you don't have big backing of the banks. They come to a point where there's no choice. Obviously, they still want to make some money out of their asset, and they have to sell.
And do you feel like that's happening more than in the past?
It happened over the years, always in the same rhythm, or more. Actually, just before you arrived, I was searching a video in our archive from 1978. 1978, the Swiss television did a big reunion of bankers, hoteliers, Swiss Hotel Association. My father was invited to the interview, and they were already talking then about la mort des palaces, the dying of the palaces. And that, for example, happened in the Gstaad Palace, which also became a Club Med, and now an investor just bought it to hopefully revive it. And so this is a theme we're talking about 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it happened gradually. But as we said, now there's not many left. There's about 2 or 3 families left like us. And we'll see what the future brings.
What about the strengthening of the Swiss franc?
I've been watching it these days. It's been dropping again below 110 to the euro. It's not good, because unfortunately Switzerland is already expensive as it is. It has been always an expensive country, and obviously with these exchange rates, with the Swiss francs becoming so strong, it's getting more and more expensive. And
are you feeling that pinch here?
Yeah,
at
initially,
this level?
Once many years when the euro took the first drop, I thought, well, it doesn't really matter. My guests are wealthy; it will not affect them. And then it actually did. And later on, I had an interesting conversation with a guest, and he said, "You know, Mr. Scherz, I love your hotel. I love your property. We've come in here for many years, and I don't mind if the exchange rate is bad and everything is 30% more expensive nearly than elsewhere in Europe." I don't mind paying 30% more for the palace, but bear in mind, I need to rent a car, I need to pay a ski teacher, I need to go for a pizza with my kids, I need to buy a present for madam, and so on. And all these things, they're not 30% better than in the rest of Europe. The ski teacher, the rental car, the pizza is, yeah. So it's often, it's up here also, not just in the wallet, it's also in their mind. But I understand, you know, if you can get on a holiday, the vacation, it's the hotel is maybe only 50, 60, 70%, but then you have all the other add-ons on, and that altogether makes it expensive. And they think, why should I go to Switzerland if I can get more or less the same somewhere in Europe?
I don't know, something that keeps you up at night, I bet.
It does, because I don't see a change, and when I read the news and so on, it looks like it's here to stay. It's not going to get better. Yeah.
Speaking of challenges, what about the service, the quality of service people, the availability of people going into service here in Switzerland?
You really put the finger on all the problems I have.
We'll get to the good stuff. We'll get to the good stuff.
I had a good mood this morning. No, actually, so you're absolutely right. This is one of the other issues we have in our industry. Young people. Hotel business is tough business.
Yeah.
Long hours. You in general work when your friends are off. You work at night, in the evenings, on weekends. The pay is good, but not as good as in some other sectors. Young people like to travel. We're in a lucky position, maybe due to the name. The people love to come and work at the palace, have the palace name on their CV, but they don't stay so long. In the old days, people sometimes stayed 20, 30, 40 years. They were happy to have a job they liked. And nowadays, the young people, often they come and say, Mr. Scherz, I was very happy, but now I want to go and work in Italy. I want to work at the seaside in the summer. I want to see the United States. And obviously, thanks to the internet, traveling and finding new jobs has become much, much easier than in the past, where you didn't know how to find a job and what paperwork you had to do and would you find something to rent. Today, you have everything at your fingertips. You have your next job planned within an evening.
So do you have to be more creative in order to retain these younger people?
Yes, we try to be very creative. We really try to treat our staff extremely well, look after them very well, to make them feel so comfortable. With some success, because sometimes they leave and they come back and they say, oh, I earned more over there, but I'm much more comfortable here. And but this is only a small percentage, obviously. But we have to be creative. We have to try to maintain them. And as they're staying a shorter time with us, we have to intensify training much more, you know. Because the rotation is so fast, they're not as trained as somebody who was here 3, 4, 5, 10 years.
Expensive for you.
Again, more expenses. We're just looking at hiring a training manager who only does that, and yeah.
All right, well.
Next question.
Okay. You are watching the second part of The Newsmaker with Andrea Scherz. He is owner and managing director of the Gstaad Palace Hotel. So, welcome back, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. So, I mean, I will fess up to being old enough to remember before the internet how one would, you know, really have to call up the hotel to book a room. And nowadays, of course, there are so many other ways, it feels like, to book a room at the hotel. I mean, how has digitalization affected you here at the Palace? Is it business as usual, or have you really seen big changes?
It's an absolutely new ball game. It changed so much. I think the work increased by about 7 times. If we maybe look at 1960,
the work increased 7 times?
Yes, I'll explain to you.
Okay.
If you look at 1960 and today, in 1960 we had probably an average stay of 2 weeks. The guests came 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No internet. Okay, there was maybe already telex, but often people wrote the letter. And in those years, or slightly before, my grandfather in the off season was still doing the front office correspondence. Yeah. It was very simple, you know. People just wrote once, Mr. Scherz, who would like to come from 15th of August to the 2nd of September, you have our usual rooms. My grandfather would write by guest, the rate is such and such. Please confirm, and the guest confirmed, that was it. Nowadays, thanks to email, I once had an example. We had a couple from New York coming for a ski week. It's a package week. Everything is clear. You have half board, you have the ski pass included, you have this and this room. Before they came, and I'm not exaggerating, we had about 4 centimeters of email printouts. In those days, initially, we still had to print out emails. 4 centimeters. They wanted to know everything. Bookings in every night in a different restaurant. We made the bookings. Then they said they want a written confirmation of each restaurant. Then they wanted the name of the ski teacher. And then they wanted the dress code in each restaurant. We said sport chic. They wrote back, please explain sport chic.
Oh, wow. So the back and forth is what really produces so much work
endless.
for you.
And in the old days, average stay of 2 weeks. Nowadays, we have 3.5 days average stay. So that's about 7 times more making a booking and making a bill, making a booking, making a bill.
Wow.
So the work actually increased much more, and people expect very quickly answer.
Yeah.
In the past, with a letter, you didn't know when your correspondent received the letter, which day exactly. You had a day or 2 before you answered. Nowadays, often, if people don't have an answer within 2 hours, we already get a phone call. So actually it's much more stressful and more work due to also the length of stay that has shortened considerably. And everything short term, thanks to the internet also.
Well, then of course, digitalization also brought increased competition in the hospitality space. So now you have, even Airbnb Lux is jumping in there.
Exactly.
You also have your billionaire clients who have their own chalets, not just the hotel.
Yeah, that changed a lot. The amount of chalets in Gstaad. Even in my 23 years I'm here, I think the chalets nearly doubled. And often it's great guests who come to the palace the first time. They love it here. They do a couple of seasons with us. They fall in love and they go and buy their apartment or chalet.
So that's a double-edged sword for you.
Exactly, exactly.
You bring them in, but then they
they
go their own way.
still come for dinner or lunch with us.
But are you at any point, not to go back to the things that keep you from sleeping, but are you threatened at any point by these new, for example, Airbnb Lux and all these other
yes,
online agents?
Even before Airbnb Lux, Airbnb has been around. Once I went on and checked Airbnb Gstaad, and I was shocked to see how many amazing properties there are. Especially families with children who need a kitchen for baby food and all that, or somebody who wants his private pool. That's something we can't offer in a hotel. So yeah, that's certainly also additional competition for us.
How do you manage that?
Well, we then still can provide more service than often a chalet can, unless they bring their whole staff. But we have a great spa, great massage therapist, a concierge who organizes everything for you. And the social life. People love the social life. Here in this lobby where we're sitting, you should see it in February, for example, when these chalets are full. They still all come here to meet and greet each other and they enjoy the social life. That's something they can't get in the chalet. But so at the end of the day, it's a matter of choice, the hotel or chalet. But thank God there's still a lot of people who enjoy coming to the hotel as well.
Earlier, when we were talking about the digitalization and the and the response times and the fact that the clientele is becoming perhaps more demanding, it sounded like, as you were saying,
it is.
When you were talking.
You're right.
So has this changed?
People have less patience because on an app you get everything within a second. And just the other day I had a guest who said, "Why don't you have an app? When I need extra towels, I can press an app and I get extra towels."
Wow.
And I said, "Yes, but we have 24-hour housekeeping service and all that." Yeah, but I don't want to pick up a phone and call and wait until somebody else picks up and explain. People get demanding and everything should be instantly, as you do on your phone, everything is more or less instantly. So, and I think some people are no longer used to talk to other humans just to get what they want. They rather press a button. And so people have less patience. They're very demanding. They see the best of the best. You know, the competition is so big, and every hotel tries to outperform their competitors, inventing another little service here, and a little service there, and they don't see it here. They miss it, and people are very demanding, unfortunately.
And then you've got the whole element of the online reputation management, right? That
yes.
people are, you know, now they can write and give opinions and reviews and stuff in a way that wasn't possible.
Yeah, and actually they use it to threaten us nowadays.
To what, sorry?
To threaten us. We have guests who say if we don't get this for free, we had recently a couple checking in, they booked a double room, and there was a 14-year-old child with them. And then we said, oh, you brought your child with you. Would you like an extra room, or shall we put an extra bed in your room? And they said an extra bed. And we said it's, I don't know, 120 francs, the extra bed, including breakfast for a child. And they said, oh no, it didn't say when we booked that it's in charge for extra bed. And we said, yeah, because you booked only a double room. Well, if you don't give it us for free, we're going to write a really bad review. So as people they know they sort of have a tool against us, and they start to threaten us.
And do you feel threatened?
Yeah, we didn't give in.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we also have people who are honest with their reviews, but it's not a comfortable situation. I think there's very few business where the power of the internet can take so much control over a business like we have TripAdvisor or so on in the hotel industry.
In terms of guests, you know, historically, they were synonymous with jet setters, celebrities. I mean, the list is well known. Liz Taylor, Richard Burton, Michael Jackson, I mean, Roger Moore, and so on. You mentioned impatience, but how, in what other ways are they different from what they were in the past? I mean, who are your guests today? Do you still get a lot of these celebs?
We found celebrities are hiding more and more, you know. Because obviously news travel much faster nowadays than in the past. Digital images are around the globe within seconds. Didn't happen in the past. So I think they sometimes have to hide even more away than coming to a hotel. But we have a lot of famous people of the industry and finance world, tycoons, who enjoy coming here, who are not bothered, who enjoy the good old innkeeping as we do it. They're the kind of guests we get nowadays. We get occasional celebrity, but not as much as in the past.
As in the past. I've heard this said more than once, that there is no such word as no at the Gstaad Palace, which, I mean, it feels to me like you're really painting yourself into a corner, you know, like that could be a double-edged sword.
Well, that's the way we train our staff. You know, this is luxury. That there's always a second choice, or there's always, how I say, a plan B. There's always an option. Mm-hmm. There's never a no. We try to give the guest an option. We try to do everything to make the guest happy.
And any requests come to mind? You don't have to tell me who it was, but what could be one of these things where you really had to go out of your way to say yes?
Once I had a very good guest. He called me Thursday afternoon and said, oh, it's my wife's birthday. I want to throw the biggest party of the winter at your hotel for her birthday. And I want the big disco band to appear and LED screen and big party. I said, yeah, of course, a great pleasure. When is it? Oh, it's Monday. And I found myself still the same afternoon calling Chic, Nile Rodgers and Chic in New York. Hello, this is Andrea from Gstaad. Can you come and play with us on Monday? They couldn't stop laughing, you know. But eventually, when my guests made it the same hour a transfer, they were here the next Monday. And so then it was, my whole team was working over hours and nights, but we had one of the most memorable parties in the hotel. And
all right. So you really had to go out of
we
your
also
way.
like the challenges, you know, often we also like the challenge.
And have you seen recently also an increase in American tourists or Chinese? Because this is what Swiss tourism reported this week, that there has been, but I don't know, have you felt that here?
No, American tourists with us are quite stable since many years.
Okay.
No big changes. Chinese tourists, we had a big increase in the last few years, but now it's starting to flatten out a little bit.
No surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, given the situation in China, yeah, not a
Exactly,
surprise.
and it's we still have small numbers of Chinese tourists. Switzerland has mainly the Chinese mass tourism with coaches and just one night here, one night there, but not in Gstaad.
Yeah. And they don't usually do 5-star hotels.
Exactly, yes.
Right,
Or
okay.
very few. Yeah, more on the big routes of the big touristic routes of Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
And Gstaad is not on the big touristic route of Switzerland.
Right. I see that. Okay. Okay, this brings me to the newly renovated private SAANEN, airport. You're on the board of the cooperative that built this airport. The initial budget was around 30 million Swiss francs.
That's correct, yes.
Did you make it? Because I heard that there was some discussion that they would need more funding, but...
I think it's no secret we still need 2 millions, but the banks are helping us currently. So we can say we made it, but we still try to find the remaining 2 million, so we have enough cash to maintain the airport. One day we have to do the whole runway again.
Right.
But it's
Did
been
you
a
need
great
a 30
success.
million Swiss franc renovation?
We didn't need it, but Switzerland is very expensive when you build. We did a sensible renovation, or we built new buildings, but in Switzerland everything is so expensive. Building, and we also had to buy some considerable amount of equipment, new equipment, snow clearing equipment and all that. And just a snow clearing machine is over 500,000.
And will you be able to bring in more planes now?
No, it's not the aim, because we're limited. So by law, we're limited how many planes we can bring in. But we want to provide better service. We want most of the winter have a dry surface so planes can land and not have to land on snow, then they can't.
All right. Okay. How do you manage the? I got one more,
Feel free.
one more question for you. How do you manage the environmental footprint of the luxury sector? I mean, because you're talking about private planes, you talk about maybe having to make last-minute trips to get, to be able to say yes to one of your clients who wants something maybe exotic or out of the way, or how do you balance that?
It's not easy. Luxury and ecological footprint have always been a bit apart. It's not something that goes together. But we've been doing great efforts over the years.
Like what?
For example, there's remote heating central fired by wood that we initiated with the community. So we're heating actually with renewable energy. We're heating with wood the whole hotel. That was a big project, and thanks we started that. Many other houses could also link up to that, and now we're heating with renewable energy. But we're the biggest customer of that company. We rebuilt the whole forest above the hotel that was destroyed by a storm in 1999. We rebuilt the whole forest. We were pioneers in LED lighting to bring down electricity costs. We have a computer in the hotel where all the big electricity consumers are attached to, sauna, elevators and all that, cooking stove, and it's occasionally milliseconds turns one or the other off so that we're not going too high in the electricity consumption. We did a big project on food waste. We studied the food waste over a year, tried to improve
There's a lot of food waste at hotels, huh?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So what are you doing with it?
Well, we have big analyses where we can cut or do a little less food waste, how we could maybe reuse some of the fuel.
You can turn it into biofuel and things like this?
Biofuel. That is a project we're on, biofuel, but we have to rechange the whole kitchen basically, big transformation. Soaps. The soaps are given to a third world country where they remake soaps.
Oh, I see.
Many little things like that.
Right. Sounds like something that's on your mind.
It's on our mind.
It has to be, or?
Yes, because at the end of the day, it's nature, our business. People come here to see the great nature we can offer, and so we have to look after Mother Nature.
You are watching part 3 of the Newsmaker with Andrea Scherz. He is owner and managing director of the Gstaad Palace Hotel, one of the last 5-star family-owned and run properties in Switzerland. Now we're going to get back to him in a moment, but before, we wanted to find out more about what it takes to be a 5-star hotel in Switzerland. All right, so walk me through this. How does it work? How do you determine how many stars a hotel receives?
Yes, it's all based on the criteria of Hotel Stars Union, which is a European body who has harmonized the classification criteria in 2009 and which contains about 16 countries. And based on these criteria, we are classifying our Switzerland hotels every 3 years.
Okay, so the system that we use here in Switzerland to classify the hotels is it uniform then across most European countries?
That's true. Not in every country, unfortunately. But for instance, France is not taking part, Spain is not taking part, Italy is not taking part, but very important for us, Germany and Austria, Sweden, the Danish, the Netherlands, etc. are taking part. So it's more or less a continental European harmonized system. But we are interested and we are working to join other countries inside of this system. Because the goal of this system, of this harmonized system, is of course the transparency for the clients. So that if you are in a 3-star hotel in Switzerland, you have the same product if you are visiting a 3-star hotel in Frankfurt or in Milano.
And when you give out stars to a hotel, I realize that the system, there's a whole list of criteria that you have to check and meet.
The mechanism of the system is you have to be, first of all, able to have a certain service degree per category. So obviously in 5-star hotels you have a much higher level of service degree. So you are taking points as more services you get and give to the clients as more points you have.
So it's a point system.
It's a point system. And on the other hand, certain services are demanded in the category as must criteria. For instance, if you are talking about the 5-star hotels, you can't be a 5-star hotel without having a restaurant inside your hotel. You could be a 4-star hotel without a restaurant. 5-star, it's not possible. You cannot be also as well a 5-star hotel without concierge services, for instance. It's not about the classification system itself, but it's just a demand for the market.
There are a lot of 5-star hotels in Switzerland for such a small country.
There are a lot, that's true, yeah. And it's even increasing a little bit. We have, 3 years ago, we've had about 95 5-star hotels classified. So far, at this moment, we have 102 5-star hotels in Switzerland. This is about 5% of all hotels and restaurants classified by Swiss Hotel Association.
How does that compare to other countries, do you know?
Well, it's difficult to compare countries, but if I have a look to the Netherlands, we have much more 5-star hotels, also in percentage. But
why? Why is that?
Because of the tradition. It all starts with those palaces, about all these big houses, and obviously they are today, there are 5-star hotels, maybe sometimes there are 4-star hotels, because these palaces had all the time all these services, all these lobbies, all these bars, etc., etc. So they're really here to be a luxury 5-star hotel.
And when we talk about these 5-star hotels and what it takes to get them, as you were saying, restaurant and certain other things, concierge service, does sustainability also play a role?
Well, not directly, it doesn't play a role, but it's playing a role in the fact that we are giving points to those hotels who are having a certificate in concerning environmental things like ISO 14001, like EU Umweltlabel, like other labels who are on the market. So we are really keen on see those certificates, but we are not asking mandatory for those labels. So they don't have to use it. But it's more the market, so more the clients who are looking after those things. So people from today, they are keen on finding hotels who are giving a good quality, but as well are working in this case, cases.
Have you ever had a case where a 5-star drops a star?
We do have. Well, if I count about 120 hotels, we have a handful of hotels who are on our monitor. Of course we have. Like everywhere we have. We are working with them, we are discussing with them, and they are having some things to do, to complete, and but they're on the edge to fail. But there are really only a handful. More or less, if you see the overview of the 5-star hotels in Switzerland, they are really very competitive.
Speaking of which, the Gstaad Palace Hotel, 5-star, always been a 5-star.
I suppose, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Probably,
I mean,
yeah.
well,
since I remember, yes.
For a long time,
they've
been a 5-star hotel. What has been your experience with them?
Well, I've never lived there, but I know this hotel, I know this place, and it's a magic place. It's a legend of the Swiss hotellerie. It's a palace. Gstaad without the Palace Gstaad isn't Gstaad.
Well, he would like to know that you said this.
It's
I know.
really my opinion.
Your opinion.
Yeah, no. Just look at the house. Yeah, it's impressive, and Gstaad is a bit made from the hotellerie, as Zermatt as well. Okay. So the hotellerie made some destinations, the hotellerie and also the skiing, of course, but they had to stay somewhere. So these destinations, they were built up by the hotellerie. Other houses were coming afterwards. Before they were just probably nothing there. Yeah.
Is there anything that, from a management perspective, you think, wow, they're doing this, that it's very well and it's very innovative, or?
Yeah, and part of that, what I'm saying, I personally are very impressed by the guest reviews, the results of the guest reviews. They are really always very high, and we are monitoring also the guest reviews with our system, Trust You, and so we have a look and we have a kind of preparation for visiting the hotels and auditing the hotels. What it impressed me personally is that this is managed by the owner's family, personally, on spot. Yeah.
That's not common.
It's not common in this way, no. It's personally owned, it's personally managed also on the front. Clients knows the hotel family, etc., etc. It's also not common because more and more hotel chains are entering into the market. And in hotel chain, this is the big difference. You don't have this personal management. So you have procedure standards, etc., in a highly degree, but you don't have this personality of the management in the house. And I suppose in the Palace Gstaad you have it.
So do you agree that the success of the hotel, part of it has been because your family has been so present and yourself now?
I think so. It's like everywhere. If you go into a family-run store where you know the store owner, you always feel more comfortable. It has that certain additional human touch, and also people probably can feel that we've been running this hotel for 3 generations with our heart, and we look after it. And if it's yours, you always run it differently than if you're just managing somebody else's property. And the owner often is not on the property, somewhere else, and cares also less. So here the manager and the owner are the same person, are on property, and so there's a lot of caring going on.
Speaking of caring, Karl Wild, who publishes the Sonntagszeitung and Weber Verlag, named you Hotelier of the Year.
Yes.
This year for 2019, had a lot of nice things to say about you when I spoke with him. But basically that he's mastered, he said, Andrea Scherz has mastered everything with his hotel.
That's a great compliment, and he's seen many hotels over many, many years, so it's a great compliment.
And these kinds of compliments and recognitions, I mean, aside from being nice for the ego, do they translate to more guests?
I wish they would. I don't think it makes a huge difference because our audience, our guests are from all over the world, and so it's maybe, I have a rough guess, maybe 3% of my guests saw that recognition, saw that award we got, so it's marginal, unfortunately.
Earlier we were talking about the classification system, the star system of the hotels here in Switzerland. How obsessed are you with the stars, if at all? I mean, you've been 5 stars for a long time, but...
Yes, I'm not too obsessed with the stars. You know, it's, I think, over 200 points or 500 points to get your 5 stars. And we're well within the range, so I'm not at all worried I could lose a star in the next few years. But as we said earlier, there's maybe still a difference nowadays. All the ratings you get, all the public ratings, TripAdvisor and so on, they are taken into account nowadays by the Swiss Hotel Association to do your rating. So that is another challenge to keep these ratings up. And especially my guests, they don't really rate us after they left. The kind of guests, wealthy people, very busy. They don't have time when they come home and write and answer for a form. They carry on with their life, and so we get actually not too many ratings, feedbacks from our guests. So it's more challenging actually. But still, I don't lose any sleep over it.
Or somebody's going to come knocking on the door and say they want to check your best room. Normally, I know they organize to see you.
Yeah, but we get mystery checks as well. You know, we're part of the leading hotels of the world. Great association that brings us a lot of bookings, and they send mystery guests quite regularly. And
do you find out when they arrive, or after they arrive, when they're gone, or?
I wish we would know when they arrive.
Obviously, not when they arrive. Wouldn't it be a mystery otherwise?
Usually, when they check out normally. They walk out of the door and then they turn around and say, "Surprise! I was the mystery guest."
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So then we get a debriefing, and actually it's very interesting because obviously I can never see my hotels really through the eyes of a guest, because unless I wear a moustache and a wig, but otherwise they always spot me and do their best. So it's then very interesting to hear what they have to say, what they've seen, and actually enjoy these mystery checks.
All right, I want to talk a little bit more about you. Now, you say that you voluntarily chose to go into the family business, but you studied hotel management and you always worked at hotels. So, I mean, I feel like, did you ever seriously consider something else?
Not really, actually.
Okay.
My father always told me, you can do in life whatever you want as long as you're happy. Because if you're happy at what you're doing it well. If you enjoy what you're doing. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up here. This hotel was very close to my heart since a young age. And I'm somebody who doesn't like to do the same job twice. I like always do something new. I'm quite creative. I need new challenges every day, and I wouldn't like to do something monotonous. And here I never had the same day in 23 years. So, and I love Gstaad. I think it's a wonderful place to live. And so automatically I was really attracted into this position.
And so you have 2 children.
I have 2 children, correct? A boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. Are either one of them lining up to be your successor?
My son is actually starting hotel school in a couple of weeks in Lausanne, HL. Same as my dad did with me. I never pushed him. It's his own choice. But obviously I'm happy he's looking into that direction. He still has a long way to go to maybe one day run this, but I'm happy that there might be a chance.
Okay, it would be nice to pass it on, right? I mean,
absolutely. After 3 generations, it would be great to have a 4th generation.
Right.
And somewhere ultimately, it's the game, or it's the aim, is to keep that hotel in the family if possible.
And if by chance that didn't work out?
As they say, let's cross the bridge when we get there.
Fair enough. I'd like to finish up with an event that is also quite close to your heart, as I understand it, which is the polo tournament coming up.
Correct, coming up.
Why not rugby, for example? Why polo?
Well, the polo tournament has been here, I think, over 20 years, or around 20 years. And we only started to work with them maybe 13, 14 years ago as a caterer. And I think it's the greatest summer event we have in Gstaad. It's beautiful down at the airport in Saanen. Glorious mountains, sunshine, the horses in the background, the private jets, the ladies in their elegant hats, the gentlemen well dressed, champagne flowing. So it has amazing atmosphere, and it draws a lot of people to Gstaad.
And funny enough, you're allergic to horses, which I think is very funny. You don't play polo and you're allergic to horses yet?
Yes, well, I have to take an antihistamine when I have to go down there, but it's part of the game.
You are watching part 4 of the Newsmaker with Andrea Scherz, owner and managing director of the Gstaad Palace Hotel. Now, this is one of the last family-owned hotels, family-owned and run hotels in Switzerland. Is it still a family affair? I mean, do you still, for example, does your father still help in making decisions?
He's sort of my advisor.
Okay.
Whenever I have bigger decisions to take or more difficult decisions to make, I give him a call and say, Dad, when are you next time coming over to the hotel? And he said, what is it? What do you need my opinion on? And then I tell him what I want to share with him. And he says, okay, come over. And then we sit down, we have a coffee. Okay. He gives me his opinion, and he's always very fair. He says, at the end of the day, it's your business. Decide whatever you want. But I got his opinion. And so I call him my advisor.
That you listen to occasionally.
Yes, yes. I always take his advice in account, more or less. But it's always good to get some experienced advice.
Now, as I understand it, just like your father, you love traveling and discovering luxury hotels all over the world. What have you seen that's really impressed you?
Oh, I've seen so many things. Great hotels. Once I was in Vegas when I was younger, impressed how they run a hotel with, I think, 1,200 rooms. That impressed me. I recently was in Shanghai, the skyline of Shanghai, and how the old town of Shanghai changes colors and all that, the light thing. There's a million things that come to my mind, but also sometimes small attention to detail. I did a stay last winter in a hotel in Ireland, and I just asked the concierge, I want to go for a drive tomorrow, where shall I go? And he pointed out on a map where I should go. next morning when I go to my car, they just said, oh, we prepared a picnic hamper in your car and some blankets in case you want to have a break. And, you know, the small details where I also can learn and motivate my staff and give them examples what other hotels do and how much they go out of their way to really make the stay of a guest exceptional. And this is why I think it's important for me to travel to see what the competitors do, pick up ideas.
To do real market research.
It's kind of
Personal
market research. Yes.
Right, and
yes,
experience
it is.
this. So attention to details still may be the red thread through that runs through luxury hotels.
It is, you know, it's the hospitality business is a people business at the end of the day. I tell my staff, you should think in terms as if you would be receiving a good friend in your house. What would you do for your friend? Or maybe a friend, girlfriend or boyfriend you want to impress. You try to get her favorite flowers. You try to get his favorite red wine. You try to set the guest bedroom in a way your friend likes it. And that's the same way we should welcome our guests. And it's attention, details, and knowing your clients, obviously.
And in terms of trends, would you jump on the cryptocurrency train and start maybe taking Bitcoin or something like this?
I think it's too early, personally, but I think it will move faster than we think. These cryptocurrencies will change the world, I think. Yeah.
In our lifetime, or?
In our lifetime. I think...
that fast? Yeah.
Before I stop working here, we'll probably no longer deal with euros and dollars and all that. We will be dealing in cryptocurrencies.
Interesting. Whole new world.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? Got some questions for you. What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness? Sunset in the mountains.
What is your greatest fear?
Greatest fear? Not to be perfect in the hotel.
To make a mistake?
Not a personal mistake, but not to be the perfect product.
Which living person do you most admire?
Skip.
Oh, okay. All right. What is your greatest extravagance?
Greatest extravagance? My classic cars. I love driving classic cars.
And you own?
I own 3.
Okay. You can only skip one, by the way. That was it. Okay. Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
The word maybe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Which talent would you most like to have?
Play an instrument.
Any instrument?
The percussion.
Okay. All right. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
That I've been running this business successfully for 23 years.
I think that's a pretty good one. What is your most marked characteristic?
My patience and my calm.
Who are your heroes in real life?
Those in real life. Some of our former politicians we had in Switzerland who made Switzerland what it was, who were courageous, who said no to the European community, who didn't bend with the banking secrets and all that.
Anybody specifically come to mind?
Not specifically. I'm mainly talking about the people who were running Switzerland after the Second World War.
Okay. What is it that you most dislike?
Obnoxious people.
What qualifies as obnoxious?
When they're disrespectful for whatever goods, food, animals, people.
Okay. What's your greatest regret?
That I started here so early, that I had not more time to travel the world, see the world, and do my own career.
As a hotelier, or is it something else?
As a hotelier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your motto?
My motto, I always have a positive attitude. I only see the positive things at the end of the day.
That's a good one. And to wrap it up, if we go back in time for a minute, what's the most important lesson you've learned from the 2008 financial crisis?
That we can recover.
So Andrea, we are here in your office. I can see you have a lot of photos. You know, obviously, I think you very much like to be surrounded by the history of the palace, from what I see on the wall. Tell me, tell me a little bit about what I'm looking at here.
Well, there are a lot of fun pictures how the hotel looked in the past, and that probably was one of the first brochures my grandfather created for the hotel. That the room was starting at 10 Swiss francs, and the dinner was 9 Swiss francs.
Wow.
The lunch was 8, and the breakfast was 3 francs. So I think it's pretty amazing, amusing, and they just penciled in the prices, you know, so they could reuse the brochures every year.
And tell me about this.
Actually, this is my grandfather entertaining the guests. You know, back in those days, there was no TV, no internet, so in the evenings, sometimes they tried to entertain the guests. So my grandfather did the whole circus show with his 4 children. And the gentleman here is my father, and he was part of the crew entertaining the guests, lifting fake weights, and apparently later on he even pushed the needles through his cheeks. Part of the show he learned by a magician how to do it.
Well, of course, this begs the question, did you ever have to do a show when you were a
kid?
No,
thank God the TV then came into the hotel and I didn't have to do it.
All right, and here is a picture of you with your father.
The 3 generations, yes. Well, it's a bit an older picture. My son by now, he is nearly 20, but my dad, my son, and myself, the 3 generations.
Of Scherzes.
Yes.
And as for your desk, it seems really quite clean.
Well, I try not to get too much distracted.
Right. I can see you still have the car there. You're a car guy, so...
Yeah, well,
obviously
I love
still
classic
cars,
so my assistant gave me that car. It's one of the classic cars I have, and she thinks sometimes it's good if I need to let my mind wander a bit to have this as a help.
All right, well, thank you so much for letting us have a glimpse at your
My
workspace.
pleasure. My pleasure.